Tennessee State to just 3 of 13. Klubnik zips it down the field. Let's go in stride. And the Tigers are on the board. Wilson Pat Henry's become more and more of a factor, particularly in the run game. Here's Klubnik. Off to the races. They pick up right where they left off against Appalachian.
It's 2nd and 9 for Clemson. Klubnik with plenty of time. Found his man in the seam. It's caught. Williams, touchdown, Clemson.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Tigers Den podcast, back for episode 4. Great weekend of college football this past weekend, but back joined by my co-hosts. I'll let them introduce themselves again.
Peyton here.
Thomas, glad to be back.
Yeah,
coming to you live from old New Prospect.
Okay. No, we're not at the one.
Not at the one right now. Not at the one. Came home.
And guys, we have a special guest coming on for a segment, Mr. Hollywood, Mr. Clemson alumni, Mr. Elijah Rogers. How are you doing, Eli?
I'm great, bro. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. What you been up to?
Just on some side quest up in Gaffney. You know how it is, man.
You keeping Torian straight?
Trying to. You know how that.
We know he's a handful. Yeah. We're gonna get right into this thing, man. We're not gonna keep you here long. We're a fairly new podcast coming in here. We're in season 2, but this is these guys' 4th episode. We just kind of want to get some, former players, recent player or new players and stuff like that. Just kind of talk about that Clemson experience playing under Coach Sweeney and that recruitment process. So if you want to open up, man, just talk to us. We know you're went to Blacksburg. I'm right, Blacksburg High School.
Yeah, Blacksburg.
Yeah. So talk about your recruitment process. I know you were committed to a couple places before Clemson, but just talk about that recruitment process and what landed you in Clemson, South Carolina.
Really, it was a little roller coaster of a ordeal. So I, like you said, I graduated from Blacksburg High. I'm actually from Gaffney, live in Gaffney, never lived in Blacksburg. So my dad coaches in Blacksburg, and me and my older brother decided to go play with him in Blacksburg. But graduated from Blacksburg in 2018. I committed to Indiana in 2016, going into my junior year. Mike Penix, the quarterback for the Falcons, he was actually my roommate while I was at IU while I was there. But came in with that 2018 class with Mike Penix. I left IU during camp of my freshman year, so I was on campus maybe 2 or 3 months. Got a little homesick. I was 17 years old, young kid, So I leave IU. This was July of 2018, and I have another older brother who was at Gardner-Webb at the time. So he was playing football at the time, so I decided why not go play with my older brother, be close to home. That's maybe 20, 30 minutes from where I live, so I figured I'd go play with him, and that's where I spent my freshman year. Some things got handled in a unprofessional manner, I'll say, at Gardner-Webb, and I wasn't too happy with it, so I decided I didn't want to spend my career there. So I left Gardner-Webb my freshman year, didn't really have an idea of where I wanted to go, what was going to happen next, but I knew I didn't want to be there. So leave Gardner-Webb my freshman year. My second year, I planned to go to Carolina. Some things didn't add up down there. So my second year, what would have been my second year, I sat out of school completely. My third year, which was 2020, I enrolled at Clemson, but that was COVID year. So couldn't join the roster, couldn't do anything. So that's basically 2 years of me being out of football completely. 2021 rolls around, and I finally Coach Swinney and the team, they have a tryout every year. And 2020, they didn't have a tryout because of COVID. 2021 rolls around, they have a tryout. Those guys knew me from high school. They recruited me. They just the offering pool when it comes to Clemson is super tiny. But like I said, they knew me coming out of high school as a prospect, and I walked on, had a great tryout, and my first year with Clemson was in 21, and I finished up in 22 with an ACC championship.
Yeah, man, that's a insane of a recruitment process, but glad you stuck it out. It worked out, into with the Tigers. Peyton, Thomas, you want to ask him anything?
Yeah, kind of a simple question, but do you have a favorite memory with your time at Clemson about players, coaches, experiences? Just plain and simple. What was your favorite memory being a Tiger?
I'd probably say just the overall family feel, man. I think a lot of recruits these days they're looking for more money than anything, and I think it gets undervalued the older that I get. The family aspect of coming to a program and not being a guy that's getting paid $1 million to be somewhere, because it starts to feel like a job at that point. I think that it's special that Coach Swinney and that entire staff, they get kids and they allow them to develop rather than you're not the guy coming in as a 17-year or 18-year-old freshman and they just get you out and go replace you. So I think that's a special feeling to know that you got coaches that are willing to stick by your side, teach you up, coach you up, and love on you as a man in the process and help you become a leader in society once football is over. So just like I said, that family feel between the staff, the players. I still talk to a lot of guys today. Some of my best friends are Armand Mason, Levi Matthews. I still talk to Barrett every week or so. So I still stay in touch with a lot of those guys that's still down there.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot about the transfer portal and NIL a lot in this podcast so far. We've come to the conclusion that Clemson might not get anybody, but we're also not losing anybody. And I think that has a lot to do with the culture that Dabo and all the coaches have built in Clemson. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
Without a doubt.
Thomas, you got anything?
I'll say one thing, looking at Coach Dabo, he's a great coach on and off the field, but just kind of some things, spending some one-on-one time with him, just kind of we hear a lot him talk about a lot of, like you said, building kids' lives off the field so they're successful, whether they make it in the league or not. What's some things that he maybe instilled in you or taught you that's kind of stuck with you to this day?
I'll say one thing. We would call them Swinneyisms. But one thing he used to always say is it takes what it takes. And I've taken that with me ever since I met Coach Swinney. And like I said, I think it ties back to a lot of kids nowadays have a different mentality of like I said before, that they're looking for the wrong thing. And I know for me, I had pro aspirations, still do. I probably bet a lot of money that I'm probably Swinney's first player to ever sign some type of pro contract with no game experience. But to think back and always, I can hear him in my head always saying it takes what it takes and you can't change what it takes. That's just one thing that's always stuck with me because, you can't really cheat any process when you're trying to chase anything, whether it be a job or sports or whatever it may be. So that's one thing that's always stuck with me, and something from the culture that he's built is like I said, it takes what it takes no matter what you're chasing. So you can't really change what it takes. You got to be willing to have the mentality of running to a fire instead of running away from it, So just attacking every opportunity that you get.
Yeah, I like that, man. You kind of got into the business side of college football and, about the transfer portal and what kids expect and, what made you come to Clemson and play for Coach Swinney. But, I want to talk a little bit about the fun side of playing for Clemson, man. What was your, you got running down the hill, you got, Tiger Walk, the awesome facilities, man. Just what was your favorite part about stuff like that? And, what, cherish so many memories?
I think it's cool I go down a slide every single day for practice, something like that is fun to me. I think the tradition of beating Wake Forest at Wake Forest and having fresh donuts in the locker room is a cool tradition. Beating South Carolina every year and playing Sandstorm in the locker room. I don't know. It's been some cool memories made. Just even the fun side, and then there's the side of we always had Hug 'em Up Wednesdays where at the end of practice we all hug each other, tell each other we love each other. And some guys, they don't hear that, So I think that's another culture nugget right there. That's something small, but it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, for sure. Get it. We're not gonna keep you here too much longer, man. We know you're a busy guy, but talk a little bit about post Clemson football, and you had a pro contract. You spent a little time in Houston. Just talk about that. What's the process of what's life after Clemson football look like?
So I was in the UFL with the Roughnecks for a little bit. As far as the free agent guy with no game tape, no agent, I think that side is definitely, it's not easy. I won't say it's impossible because I'm a guy who believes there's always a way. You just got to find it. But
sure.
I spent a little bit of time in the UFL with that. I enjoyed it. I'm still in the process of trying to get back to it, but at the end of the day, I know that football ends for everybody, and it's not for the rest of my life. So right now I'm currently teaching 5th grade up in Gaffney.
Okay.
I've had my CDL for a couple of years, so I'm driving school buses, sports teams, you name it. So I'm on a little bit of a side quest right now, trying to get back to the football world.
Oh man, helping out the community, man. I love it.
Oh, man.
Giving back.
Yeah, you know it. Trying to do what I can. But yeah, man, life and that's another thing I'll say is Clemson football does help you prepare for life when the game is, because the first rounder all the way down to the undrafted free agent guy, it ends for everybody. So you got to be at peace with it and prepared for it when it does come, because it comes for everybody.
I like how you just said, Clemson playing for Clemson football kind of prepares you for after football and not just for football. They kind of Torian's over here blowing up my phone, by the way. He laughed. Kind of talks about life after football, and it kind of proves Swinney's point about the transfer portal, because guys are coming in other places for a semester and getting paid $1 million to not know the culture and the history behind the program, to not even really know who anybody is in that locker room. They're just coming for $1 million in a dip.
And a lot of guys don't take into account the fact that the saying that one bad apple can ruin a bunch. You can bring in a guy for $1 million, and I heard Nick Saban say it in an interview once, but there's a reason those kids get in the portal, So for a guy to come in, yeah, he might be a 5-star talent, but what does he bring to your locker room? What does he bring to your culture? Yeah. So I'm all for the fact of going to get a 17, 18-year-old kid out of high school, allowing him to develop. Cade right now is a great example of that. A lot of people could have threw Cade in the trash,
For sure.
And it sounds good to go get a transfer guy, but he's a one and done. And then what's next? So why not stick it out, allow a kid to be a kid and continue to grow? So I'm all for Swinney's way of.
I think that just keeps proving his point every day, because you're always Dabo's going to get get any kind of backlash. But like he says all the time, he's Clemson football's coach. He wants to develop his guys. He wants guys to come to Clemson for the culture, and he wants people to graduate. He wants people to have life after football. And these guys that are getting paid millions of dollars to come in for a semester, like that's I don't think that's good for a locker room, man. There's guys that's been there 4 or 5 years, that's been working their tail off, and a guy coming in for a semester just expects to get the ball straight until he gets there, not having to work for it. I mean, that's not good news for a locker room, man. You want guys that you've been there for years with and you've worked together with, and you both know that you both earned a spot to play, rather than some guy just coming in from Texas that just got paid $1.5 million to play for a semester.
And a lot of guys don't also, especially players, they don't take into account, like, what's that say about my coach? What is my coach saying about me to me indirectly, that I'm a 4th year, 5th year guy. I've done my time, and I finally get to the top. And in his mind, he's like, "You ain't good enough. I'm gonna go find a replacement."
Exactly.
So, yeah, man, I'm all with Sweeney's method.
Yeah, and I think it just proves that he's one of the best college football coaches in the country, and he always will be. And it's just, and if we end up taking portal guys, congrats, like, we'll take it, whatever. But I mean, me personally, I never think Sweeney's going to go out there and offer nobody $1 million to come play.
No,
I mean, we did offer a lineman or two out this past year, just didn't work out. But
yeah,
and I
but
think
at the end of the day, I don't think we've needed anybody. Like,
just shows the development of Matt Luke, man, coming in.
Yeah, we haven't needed anybody. So I don't blame him for not beating down the door for the portal. Because at the end of the day, man, like I said, it's a lifetime decision you're making. A lot of people they're trying to get their money and get out of there versus the life after football part. They don't take that into account. So yeah, man.
Well, Eli, appreciate you getting on here, man. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come talk about, Clemson football, your life of recruitment, life after football, and, catching up with us.
Bro, I appreciate you, Cole.
I had to mute my phone, man, because Torian kept texting me, telling me to ask you a bunch of questions that probably were not appropriate for the podcast.
You need help, bro. See if I can get you some help up here, man.
That's your friend, Eli. That's your friend.
Crazy, my cousin, but I can't. It's disturbing, bro. Let's be going down the line.
But I appreciate it, man, and take care.
Appreciate you.
See you.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys, that was a very great interview from former Tiger, Gaffney native Elijah Rogers, who spent, pretty sure he spent 3 or 4 years under Clemson. Or was it 3 or 4 times?
I think it was 2, 3.
I think it was
2
or 3 years.
2, yeah,
because his first year was 21 and he stopped it. It was only 2 years.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Elijah Rogers, great man, great. You can show that he knows life after football, and football's not forever. So it's good to see that Dabo and the rest of the coaching staff and Clemson football in a whole develops guys like that into life after football. We're going to jump right into this podcast, man. I know we've already been on here for 20 minutes, but Clemson had that dominant win against Wake Forest this past weekend. A little slow start in that first quarter, but quarterback K. Klubnik just keeps on proving that he's grown mentally as a player. Mm-hmm. And even with having guys like Wesco out this weekend, we just kept that dominant offensive performance outside the first quarter. And I could say I was a little bit worried in that first quarter. I was like, Wake scored in the first quarter, which was the first team to score against us in the first quarter. So that one's done. That stat's over with. But what do you guys think? What were you outside of the first quarter being nervous a little bit? What were you glad to see us do consecutively for 5 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, looking into the start of that game, it was a little nerve-wracking. I got a lot of signs of how we played against Georgia in that first quarter. A little bit more conservative play on offense, even not as aggressive on defense. I thought our tackling was very poor in the first quarter. But then at the end of the day, these guys are Division I athletes. Coaching has to adjust. Players have to adjust. Then we go out and score 28 in the second quarter and say, okay, here we go. Avion Terrell, huge interception. Somebody else had an interception too. I can't remember. But yeah, and then we started turning it around. And like I say, they're Division I football players at the end of the day, and they're in the ACC, which is a good conference. So you got to remember those things whenever we're being spoiled with 30-point wins every week, scoring 50. You got to remember that these guys are great players. So I was happy to see our guys make adjustments. And one thing I was thinking about when Eli was talking is the development of our players, and not having Wesco this week hurt, but you see guys like Stellatos step up. You see guys like Adam Randall step up. Guys that have been in the program for a while that have been developing and getting better, and they're finally showing signs of that. So it's good to see those guys getting involved as well. And then obviously Jake Brenningstool, heck of a week. Antonio Williams, those guys have been solid from the start.
Sorry, did you see the comment? No, that was funny. I appreciate your comment, John Michael. Sorry, keep going, Peyton.
No, that was it. Y'all got it.
But yeah, I agree with what you said. It kind of had a little bit of flashback of that Georgia game. The first quarter would just kind of, it was almost like it felt like we were being a little conservative. Kind of, it seemed like we were picking up from that Florida State game, with the dry red zone. But I think overall, man, it was just fun. It was, if that was last year's team, that would have been a fourth quarter shootout all game.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't figure it out. I'm about to ban these guys from commenting, man. Between John Michael and Tori, and I can't hardly get anything out of my mouth without laughing. But it's just good to see this team finally, this group of guys just figure out their mistakes. Okay, let's look at this. What are we doing wrong? And let's fix that and go out there and play football, because last year it would just been a boring game. It would have been a 19-13 final in overtime. But I'm just glad to keep seeing these guys play ball, man. Cade has had a above 85 QBR since the Georgia game. He finished out for 31 for 41 for 309 yards, averaged 7.5 yards per throw, 3 touchdowns, finished with 88.2 QBR. I mean, he's just performing week by week, and he's starting to get up on. He's jumping the Heisman boards every single week, and it's good to see. I want to get into this this double pass, man. I haven't seen that work for us in years. I think the last one was like Adam Humphries to Taj Boyd. It's been a long time, and I mean that was not an easy throw for Antonio, and he put it right into the breadbasket. So, what do you guys think about that? Because I was like, holy crap.
I think kind of going off that last point for me is, first quarter, obviously started off slow. Some of us might have been expecting the second quarter to kind of be the same, but I think our second quarter adjustments, just exceeded expectations. And then kind of moving on to that double pass, I think I saw the last Clemson player to throw a touchdown pass and also get a receiving touchdown was Taj Boyd. So, that's an unreal stat. And I just like that, just the offensive progression that we've seen since Garrett Riley's kind of fully taken the reins. It's just it makes us look like a better team than we are. And that kind of goes into my next point is, bringing Peter Woods in for that 4th and goal heavy set on the goal line. I feel like we haven't seen that in a couple of years too. So
bridge package, man.
You got those big athletic guys that can either run in or lead that blocking. Why not use them? Why not take advantage of that? Get them in the end zone.
Yeah,
that was an awesome.
I know. I was kind of hoping they were going to hand it off to him.
Yes.
Wasn't K Part out there too?
Yeah,
it was
Cuddy blocking down, and then we had Peter swing out. I thought I would have loved if we'd have handed it off to Peter. That'd been awesome, because that'd been like the Christian Wilkins touchdown where he got flagged for doing the Heisman pose. I think it's sick.
I think our offensive progression from last year to this year, and even from Georgia game to these last couple of games, it's just night and day difference. Because never would have thought I would see a double pass in the time I've been watching Clemson as a student, but to see that we now can do that, and we now have an offensive playbook that, we're not afraid to go out there and take shots, even though it might be a little trick play. I love to see that from them.
Yeah.
And at that point, we didn't have that game in the bag yet. To do that, what was it, 14-7 at that point, maybe, or something like that?
14-7, but
it wasn't 49-14, and to have the comfortability to to do that and to just be able to make plays like that so early in the game and be comfortable with where you're sitting, even though you're not winning by that much. It was good and refreshing to see for sure. That play was awesome. And Antonio Williams even said, he was like, "There's not many places you can put that ball." Like he made a hell of a throw.
It was a perfect throw. It wasn't easy for sure.
Yeah.
But talking about Antonio Williams, kid just keeps on balling out, man. To have a tough year like he did last year and getting hurt and not coming back until the I think it was a Kentucky game which he came back from. He just keeps putting it on week by week, and Cade's getting the confidence again to throw it into traffic, man. That touchdown that Antonio had, there was a guy in the end zone and a guy dropping back. I mean, Antonio Williams is in doubt, no doubt, wide receiver one, and he just keeps on proving every single week why he is so consistent too. And, speaking about the wide receiver room, found out Bryant Westco was not playing, didn't travel, got a boot on. Who's going to step up? You got guys like Troy Stellato who just keeps coming in week by week. Adam Randall stepped up. He's probably the most improved, I would say, in that wide receiver room from week one. Very tough week one game, not to win his way, and then just to come back and be aggressive. I mean, we got Tink Kelly in there. Myson Kelly had 3 catches for 17 yards, but they were not easy catches. He should have had 4. He dropped 1. I mean, they were, in traffic throws. So it's just good to see guys that go down hurt. We got guys ready to come back up and take right over. And that's just good to see from a Clemson offense we haven't seen in about 4 years. Jake Brenningstool, I think this is his second or third game over 100 yards. I mean, I'm thankful to have him out there at tight end. I mean, he could have easily, I think, would have went last year. But, we got Josh Sapp as well and Olsen Pat Henry that are getting reps and blocking. It's just you have so much depth, man. A Clemson offense hasn't seen depth in a while. Like a couple years ago or last couple of years, we've had guys go down at wide receiver, and it's just been hell.
You don't know who's going to get thrown out there and
throw the ball.
And
it just shows that the Garrett Riley hire was probably one of the best hires we could have made. And I think the best hire outside of Brent Venables is easily Matt Luke. I mean, this offensive line, struggled early in that Wake Forest game, man. And then you got guys like Ryan Lithicum has been here for 4 years. Probably only had 60 career snaps going into the first game of the year. Now he leads the offense in snaps behind Cade Klubnik. So it's just good, man, to just keep seeing us pour on offense. But I want to get into this Bryant Westco situation. Dabo doesn't like to tell us a lot of things. He's just, everybody's day to day. Thomas and Peyton are day to day as well. Don't know if they're going to, do anything tomorrow. But and I kind of like that almost because he says he's day to day. He might come out here first play against Virginia. I mean, you just never know. I don't think he will because he wasn't a boot. But I kind of fed off of that already, just saying we have guys ready to come up and just fire away. But K continues to dominate week in, week out. Thomas wrote in the script he's 4th in the Heisman standings currently at plus 1,200 odds. Who would have expected that after that Georgia game?
I think when I looked, he's tied for 4th with Carson Beck at plus 1,200, and I think the only people in front of him were Ashton Jeanty. Granted, he's a hell of a ball carrier. I think Jalen Milrose ahead of them, and I can't remember who else. But I mean, still, for him to be that high is just it's insane. But I mean, he's been proving it. He's been going out there. He's been balling. He's been playing his tail off. I mean, he's kind of like we said last week. He's kind of proving some of the haters wrong. He showed some signs last year where had some ups, had some downs, but this year, I mean, he's coming out there and he's laying it all on the line, which I like that from him.
I think that also goes back to the other groups on the offense. Your receivers, you're building the culture, you're building their development. Great hire, like you said, on our offensive line. Those guys are working back there, and Cade will be the first to tell you that he's not the one that if he does notice the Heisman thing, he's not going to tell you that it's on him. It's on his offensive line.
Right.
It's on his receivers. It's on his coaching. And I think he's probably the most quiet 4th place Heisman vote ever right now. He doesn't bring up too much attention to himself. And it's good to see him comfortable back there. I can't remember the last time he threw 41 passes in a game last year. But just being that comfortable and then putting up, over 75%, that definitely says something about him. And then Antonio Williams obviously adds to that with one pass attempt, one completion. So that boosts our passing as well.
Yeah, we're gonna go to the text lines. We got one in here. Clemson Paul says, "What are the keys to beating Virginia this weekend, and how early should he start tailgating?" So Clemson Paul, appreciate the text. I mean, get out there at 6 a.m. Start hammering the booze and be loud in Death Valley. But the keys to beating Virginia, like we've already said, man, just keep piling on that offense. Get an early start. I want the ball. I want the ball to start.
Mm-hmm.
Air it out first play and get that defense on there and get a huge stop. But Virginia's not a bad team. I was really pulling for them against Louisville. They didn't quite pull it out, and I think it starts with that crowd. If y'all saw that crowd, it was awful. I mean, the first quarter it was a 7-0 ball game. There's nobody in the stands. It was just them. Like, you need that stadium energy, man. That stadium pulse. Tell them, Thomas.
Stadium pulse. I mean,
yeah, man. But I mean, it's hard to do it, man. It's, having a coach like Tony Elliot, man. They haven't won more than 4 ball games in 2 years, and they had that awful tragedy happen at Virginia a couple years ago, losing 3 players, which is just terrible to see in the sport of college football. And for a guy like that to stick it out and still be able to recruit guys and bring them in. I mean, I know it's got to be hard to bring in, 4 and 5 stars in Virginia week in, week out, like these big names like Clemson and all that, and you can't even get a fan base to come out and watch you.
No.
Kind of sucks, man. But they're 4-2 coming in this ball game. I mean, they're going to be pumped up, ready. You got Sage Ennis at tight end, former Tiger, Kobe Pace at running back, and Malcolm Green defense. So, it's going to be an awesome homecoming for these guys. Tony Elliott, won 2 national championships here at offensive coordinator, along co-offensive coordinator with Jeff Scott. I have no hate at all for any of those guys, the guys that are playing for Virginia, and also Tony Elliott. I mean, Tony Elliott was easily one of the best hires Dabo made as well. And, I hated to see him go a couple years ago, but I knew he was going to get a coaching job. And if they can, I'm not going to say he would leave Virginia, but if he could get him a good record going, man, I feel like this is Mac Brown's last year in North Carolina. They're not very good. And, he's probably going to retire. I feel like that job could open up for him, man. But, let's get into this Clemson-Virginia game. And like I've already said, with who's coming back for this homecoming for them, and what do you guys expect?
I think it's going to be a good weekend. Excited about it. Obviously, don't like a noon kickoff, but any game in Death Valley is a good one, and I think that's going to do a lot for our team as well. Just the atmosphere and those guys being comfortable out there with their home crowd behind them. I think that adds honestly a good touchdown to the spread in itself. Obviously, it doesn't, but I feel like it does. So just being at home instead of at Virginia, I think that helps a lot. And just, I don't know, I don't really have much to say. Sticking to our offense that we've had the last 4 or 5 weeks, and just going off that, man. I mean, it's hard to criticize these guys whenever you're winning by almost 30 points every week. So I say stick to the game plan. I guess if I have to say anything, maybe come out a little bit more strong-headed, not as flat as last week, but overall, just keep doing it. Phil Maffa last week, 19 for 108. Felt that's flying under the radar, and 2 touchdowns. He had a heck of a game last week. So keeping him involved, keeping Brennan still involved, Antonio Williams, and then letting those young guys that have been developing get in there as well. I can definitely see it being another 49-14 week for us, and then we go on a really hard stretch against Louisville, Pitt, and VT. So I think that stretch is probably gonna be hard, but you can never take any ACC opponent lightly. So I say stick to the game plan and let the Tigers roll.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think the biggest thing for me is, we don't really have a need to come out and play conservative. I mean, I don't see why we don't just come out and, just start hammering from the first kickoff, I'm not going to say run up the score, but, play our ball, score when we need to, get some turnovers. I mean, I feel like, we had 2 interceptions against Wake Forest, but, I still feel like our defense is doing pretty good. But, I feel like we're used to seeing a couple more turnovers a game kind of throughout the season. Wouldn't mind seeing a couple more turnovers, but, just coming out, just hammering the ball really quickly and, if we put up 20 to 30 points in the first quarter, it'd be this week. This week is kind of a good week to let some of those younger guys get in there and get some reps before we go on pretty tough little bender for the team, I would say.
Yeah.
But, just looking at the game day, it's a noon game. Noon games aren't always that fun. Obviously, you got some stuff to do afterwards, just have some fun. But I will say this noon game is a little more exciting to me because it has cooled off. So I think we got a high of 71 Saturday. So,
hammer it.
It's going to feel great Saturday. That's the only good thing about Saturday being a noon game. It's going to feel amazing.
Still got to bring your winter clothes for the morning, though, if you're going to be out there at 7. Yeah. These are the weirdest games because you bring your warm clothes and then you have to end up taking them off by the time the game starts. So
then you don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we got Eddie from Scranton, South Carolina. It's the Tigers for Tata's game this week. Are you guys going to wear your pink loud and proud? I do actually have a pink Tigers for Tata's pin I will be wearing over my orange polo. Might be a pullover if it's high 68s, 71s. But yeah, Dabo Sweeney, the Roar and Kathleen Sweeney always have their annual Tigers for Tatas spread breast cancer awareness. So it's a great thing they do here at Clemson, and I will be wearing my Tigers for Tatas pin.
Mm-hmm.
We got Bubbles from the local trailer park. Travelers Rest. Hopefully we can limit the mobile QB. I'll add another thing. I'm glad it's a noon game so Clemson Paul can get to his night shift at study hall. Appreciate your comment, Bubbles from Travelers Rest. I'm gonna have to start muting my phone. I can't hardly keep up composure. Appreciate you commenting, guys. But we're gonna get into our college football pick 'em. I think this is Thomas's favorite part of every episode. We're gonna start off going to Neyland Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Got number 7 Alabama against number 11 Tennessee. Thomas, I'll let you start with this one.
Before y'all start, I have to head out.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot. Peyton's got to head out, guys.
Got some plans, y'all. I'm not worth anything in the pick 'em anyway, so I'll see y'all next week.
Enjoy your dinner, man.
See you guys.
See you Saturday.
All right, sounds good.
See you.
Peyton Williams.
All right. So this is my favorite little segment. Obviously, not many people know this, but I got a little bit of Tennessee fan in me. I chose Clemson over Tennessee for school, so got a little bit of fandom still up there. But just watching these past 2 games from Bama, I think Bama is kind of a little, not going to say overrated, but they're not the Bama that we're used to be seeing. Obviously, it's the head coach's first year, still figuring some things out with him. But not saying that this Tennessee team has been very as consistent as they would have liked to be, but Neyland's never an easy place to play, and obviously Bama pulled one out against South Carolina at home last week. So I see Tennessee taking this one. I see it being a very close game like last time. We're seeing some things where they're talking about not doubling Ryan Williams, which I don't think that's a bad thing because, that leaves somebody else wide open. But I can see Tennessee taking this thing, I'm going to say 31-27.
Yeah. I like that, man. Alabama and Tennessee are both coming off 2 poorly played games, in my opinion. Alabama was almost losing to the University of Second Choice, and then Tennessee had a shaky one in Florida. But I can agree with you, man. I think this is going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be a fourth quarter game, and I think it could kind of be like that 2022 game where Tennessee kicked that game on a field goal. I'm going to take Tennessee as well, like 31-28, something like that. And I think this game could potentially knock one of these guys out of the SEC title run.
Yeah, for sure.
We actually got a couple of games like that. And we're going to now move to Austin, Texas, where number 5 Georgia takes on the number 1 team in the land, the Texas Longhorns. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and people can call me crazy. A lot of Georgia lovers aren't going to agree with me. For some reason, I don't think this game's going to be close. I think this could be a 17-point win for Texas, man. Georgia's been playing some shaky ball last couple of weeks. I mean, they're still 5-1. But giving up. They've been winning by like 10 points. I know they won by 10 to Mississippi State. I think they won by like 31-13 to Auburn, which is still a good margin of victory. But this Texas team is good, man. And this is in Austin, one of their first SEC games, second or third SEC games, their first time hosting Georgia in the SEC. I think this could literally be a blowout. Call me crazy, whoever, but just something tells me Texas is just going to lay it down.
Yeah, I agree. No, I mean, obviously Georgia, ranked number 5, had a close loss with Bama. And, after that loss, we all thought, well, maybe Bama's extremely good. Maybe Georgia's, kind of having an off year. But then you look at what Bama's done after that game. They've let one go to Vandy, and then they've almost let one go to Carolina. But I kind of agree, Texas is hot right now. A lot of people, myself including, thought Texas was going to come into the SEC. They're used to playing some pretty good ball, but they're also used to playing Big 12 ball. But they've come in the SEC, and they've been playing lights out, and especially with Quinn Ewers coming back last weekend. I don't think he played as great as he wanted to, but obviously home field advantage this week. I think they'll have that whole stadium behind them. So I agree. I think Texas is going to take this one. I kind of agree with you. Georgia's been playing shaky, so I just don't know how close they can keep it. Their defense is still really good. Carson Beck's still a good quarterback, but I'd see Texas winning this one by at least 2 touchdowns.
And I think this could be like a 45-21 game. I just something tells me, man, that Texas is just going to blow them out. With that home crowd in Arlington, I wouldn't put it past myself. But yeah, I'm taking Texas along with you. I kind of would see who Peyton would take. He might have agreed with us. I think he would have. But if we're going to go to Clemson, South Carolina, number 10 Clemson host Tony Elliot and the Virginia. Who's kind of had a little brain fart there, but Virginia's coming in this game 4-2, not playing horrible ball, man. They should be 5-1. They didn't quite pull it out versus Louisville. Clemson's 5-1 on a 5-game winning streak since week 1 versus Georgia. I think this game's not gonna be close. Could be a lot of different scenarios out there, but we just need to get on a fast start, like we've already said, get that offense rolling, get that defense going. I think this could be like another 48-17 kind of game.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna take that as a score prediction.
Yeah, I agree. I was right around the same thing. Like 49-14. Which at the same time I say that, but it's if we score a lot during the first half, I can see our backups, second and third string guys getting some reps in the second half, and obviously would love to see them go in and perform lights out. Hold Virginia to a couple scores or no scores. But I could see, that we've kind of had that happen before, where we take our starters out pretty early and then the second guys come in, allow some scores, and it makes it look like the score is a little bit closer, kind of like the NC State game. But I think even with our 2s going in, to start the second half, I kind of see Clemson taking this one 49-14.
I love it. This is a game coming up, man, that I just hope goes the other team's way. We're going to go to Louisville, Kentucky. Number 6 Canes of Miami travel to Louisville. Miami could easily be 4-2 right now. Should have lost. I still say they lost to Virginia Tech. I count that as a loss for them. But Cam Ward coming to this game, still proving his Heisman race. Sorry. But Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver. Sorry, guys. This Louisville team's not bad at all, man. You got Tyler Shaw, the quarterback, senior out of Chandler, Arizona. He's coming in for the season for 1,674 yards, 14 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's not horrible stats for the guy. He's right around there with Cam Ward minus 6 touchdowns. But I think this game's right on Louisville's plate, man. Miami's been playing. They've played some close games, man. They should have lost Virginia Tech, like I said. They were down like 14, 18, I think almost 20 points to Cal at one point.
Yeah.
That fourth quarter comeback. Miami, we've seen that anybody can beat Miami. They're 6-0, but there's been losses right there. I think I'm going to take Louisville at home. It's a 12 o'clock kickoff. That's the only thing. It should be like a 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking the Cards at home, man. I think Miami suffers their first loss. I do think Louisville comes from behind. I think Miami might take an early lead, and I think the Cards come from behind and take this win. I think it's going to be like a 28-25 kind of game. I think it's going to be really, really close.
And, I really like that pick. Just kind of looking at Louisville's last couple of games. They beat Virginia last week, lost by one score to SMU, which SMU is a ranked team now. They've actually proven a lot. They're a pretty good team. And then they lost by another game where they lost by one score to Notre Dame, a pretty good Notre Dame team. Like you said, I think the ball's in Louisville's court on this one. It's a home game. It's at their place. Obviously, you have Miami winning by 4 points against Virginia Tech and then coming back and beating Cal at Cal by 1 point. It's all up to Louisville, and I'm going to take Louisville on this one. I kind of agree. I can see this being close. I think it could be like a 30-27 score, but I would also really love to see the Cardinals win this one. Kind of show what they're about. And I think if they win this one, they're 4-2 right now. There's potential for them to jump back into the top 25 with that and, give a couple more teams in the ACC a spot in the top 25. So, I feel good about Louisville. I hope they can just go out there and if they get the lead, go out there and finish the game and not only beat Miami, but maybe beat some Zebras. So
For sure. The Zebras made a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
And not only, if they get the win, that makes the game versus us a whole lot more exciting. We got to pull out our win versus Virginia. We'll be coming off of a bye week when we get to the Louisville game. But we are going to go to Illinois where number 24 Michigan takes on number 22 Illinois. It's at Illinois, man. It's 3:30 kickoff. I think Illinois wins this game. I don't think Michigan's very good this year. I think they suffered their third loss and go 4-3 on the year. Illinois is 5-1 coming into this game. Haven't really done a lot of research about a lot of them, but they got Luke Altmaier for Illinois coming in, 1,426 yards, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's great stats for the kid.
No.
I don't think Miami can find a quarterback. They got that Orgy guy and the Davis Warren kid. I think Illinois wins this game, and I don't think Michigan. I just don't think Michigan is the Michigan we've seen in recent years. With Harbaugh leaving and them hiring within the program rather than going out to get a top tier coach, it's kind of biting them in the tail.
Yeah. I fully agree with you. I think Illinois is going to take this one. Just looking at the last couple of games for each of those, Michigan's coming in 4-2, ranked 24th. Obviously, Michigan had pretty blowout loss to start the season against Texas, and then they lost to Washington 2 weeks ago. It was at Washington, but they've also, a lot of their games have been really close. They beat Southern Cal 27-24. Beat Minnesota 27-24. So those are a lot of games that are pretty neck and neck. And then with Illinois, their one losses to Penn. It was at Penn State. Obviously Penn State's not an easy place to play. They lost that game 21-7. It's not a terrible loss. And then they beat Purdue last week in overtime. And then they've also beaten a pretty good Nebraska team in overtime. So, I agree with what you're saying. Michigan, it's not the same Michigan we saw last year. Obviously, losing Harbaugh and then a lot of their players or a couple of their players getting drafted with McCarthy leaving. I think I'll take Illinois on this one. Not saying Michigan's a bad football team. I just don't think they're as good as they were last year or as good as people thought they were going to be. So, I'd say I can see Illinois taking this one 30-21.
I like it. I like the pick, man. I really do think Illinois keeps building the resume with this win. To potentially keep fighting for that Big Ten championship spot. We're going to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, where the number 8 LSU Tigers will be taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. These two teams are coming off 2 big wins. Arkansas is going to be coming off the bye week after that huge at-home win versus Tennessee, and then LSU coming off that home win against Ole Miss, against the Rebels and Jackson Dart. Garrett Nussmeier's coming in at 160 for 249 for 1,989 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And you got Taylor Green for Arkansas coming in at 107 for 189 for 1,502 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. That's not very – that doesn't compare to the stats with Nussmeier, but Taylor Green, they're a running offense. They like to run the QB run, that design run. They don't throw the ball a lot. This Arkansas crowd is going to be freaking fired up. They're coming off the bye week after a huge win, that upset. They've been eager to play the ball for the last 2 weeks. Last week. I just, LSU's coming in. I feel like this is one of Brian Kelly's first big wins. Like dating back to Notre Dame, he could never win big games. They got a big win at home versus Ole Miss, but I just think this Arkansas crowd is going to be fired up. These guys have been ready to play football, since they upset Tennessee. I'm going to take Arkansas in a close game, and I think this is going to be a fourth quarter game. I think it's going to be a lot of points scored, but in the end, give me Arkansas. I'm going to say like 35-28 or maybe even like I think a lot of points are going to be scored, but at the end of the day, I'm going to take Arkansas.
No, I like that pick, and really the main reason why I put this game on the picks this week is I truly see this game as a trap game for LSU. Coming off a big overtime win against Ole Miss last week, they're kind of rolling high. They're ranked, number 8.
Yep.
Arkansas, we've already seen Arkansas is not an easy place to play. Tennessee went in there. I want to say Tennessee might have been ranked number 8 when they went in there.
They were somewhere in the top 10.
I think they were. I think it was 6, 7, or 8, one of those 3. But Tennessee, you saw what happened when you go in there, and if you're not on your best game, it's a home game for them. They're going to take advantage of that, and I can truly see this being a trap game for LSU. LSU won a big one against Ole Miss last week, but at the same time, I haven't really seen anything out of LSU that tells me they're the top 10 team in the nation. I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they're nowhere near some of the teams we've seen in the past. But, I kind of agree with you. I think Arkansas traps them in this game, and I think Arkansas takes this one 38-31.
Yeah, I like it. And I think, like you said, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game as well. Like, I really do. And I think it really helps Arkansas's favor that they beat Tennessee at home. So their crowd's pumped up. They're pumped up. They have something to look forward to, man. They only have 2 losses. We're going to go to the text lines again. We got Eddie back. He says, does the South Carolina Gamecocks have a shot to take down the Sooners on the road at Norman this week? Oklahoma coming off that blowout loss to Texas. This is going to be the Gamecocks' first time traveling to Norman to play an SEC game, and this would be Shane Beamer's homecoming to Norman. He spent a lot of time in Norman, Oklahoma. Oklahoma opens up as a 1.5-point favorite. I think this game's right on the Gamecocks' plate, man. I really do think they could go into Norman, Oklahoma, and upset the Sooners. They had a very big opportunity to do that this past weekend in Tuscaloosa, but some in-game decisions late in the game just didn't kind of work in their favor, and I think it all comes down to the quarterback position with Lenore Sellers. Eddie's getting mad at me right now through the text lines because he didn't call them the Gamecocks. He called them something else, but we can't say that on live. But like I said, it comes down to Lenore Sellers. They don't really have a great quarterback room at the moment, if I'm saying that. And I'm not saying Lenore Sellers is never going to be the guy. He's just a young guy, redshirt freshman, 4th or 5th game starting. But I do think this game's on the Gamecocks table, but I do think Oklahoma's coming into this game pissed. They got their defense is there, and their offense not really. But South Carolina's got a great defensive front. I think it's going to be a slow game. I think it's going to be a really close game. But in the end, I do think Oklahoma pulls it out. I would not hate to see South Carolina win this game. That'll give them another win, put them at 4-3, just keep building the resume coming into that Clemson game, Thanksgiving weekend. I hate to play the Clemson Carolina game when they're not very good. It's never fun. I want to kind of play for something. But as much as I hate the Gamecocks, I'd love to see them lose this week by 50. But it wouldn't be bad for them to win that game and keep helping build their resume and kind of get. I wouldn't say Shane Beamer's on the hot seat, but they're not going to take another bolus year and just keep giving him a chance. But what do you think about that game?
No, I agree. Obviously saw Oklahoma kind of lay an egg against Texas. Obviously, like we said earlier, Texas is a really good football team. They ran through Oklahoma. Obviously, Oklahoma's going to be coming into this game pissed, especially it being a home game for them. But at the same time, I think Carolina's a little underrated. Their defense is extremely good. And, they've got a couple offensive weapons that are really good too. Mazio Bennett at wide receiver. He can get out there and catch a ball. And then obviously you got Nick Harbor. 6'6", 240, 250, whatever, Olympic sprinter. Obviously he's a heck of an athlete. And, right, you got Rocket Sanders running the ball. He ran it good against Bama. And then I think with Lenore Sellers, I kind of agree with what you said. He's not a bad quarterback. He's young. Obviously, we know his legs are there, and that's kind of his game. That's kind of what I've seen. It's kind of almost like he's such a young quarterback where you can kind of see some aspects that transferred from high school to college with him. If he doesn't see the receiver that he's planning on throwing to open right away, he wants to take off and run it. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. He's just got to learn how to progress from that. But, there was a couple passes at the Bama game that if he makes those passes, they win that game. But I agree, as much as I hate to admit it, I wouldn't mind seeing Carolina take this one away from the Sooners just to, kind of build their resume. It's never fun. Obviously, both of our records weren't that great last year. Playing that game was probably one of the worst Clemson-Carolina games I've witnessed, even including the 31-30 loss. I mean, I'd rather have a tight game like that other than one offensive touchdown the whole game. But I can see Oklahoma winning this one, but I really think, the Gamecocks are kind of out there to prove something to these people. And I think the Gamecocks take this one away. But I think it should be I'm hoping it's a lot better game than what we've seen some of their games go. So,
yeah, and dating back to what you said about Lenore Sellers' decisions, I'm gonna speak more on that 2-point conversion to start off with. You're just throwing downfield, corner end zone touchdown to Nick Harbor that was reviewed and overruled to a touchdown, and then you get the 2-point conversion. The guy's wide open, and you throw it into the stands. Yeah. It's like you're throwing off your back foot, and you're not even knowing what you're doing with the ball. And then you get the onside kick. You're kind of getting to it. You're almost in field goal range. You got a kicker that can probably kick it around almost at 50. I mean, he missed wide right to take a lead, but you got a check down on the side. You got one timeout still. There's fifth. I don't know how many seconds left, but not very many. But it was enough time to catch the ball, get out of bounds, run a play, call a timeout, kick field goal. Instead, he throws it 40 yards downfield into double coverage.
And I mean, it was – and my thing was it wasn't even – obviously looking back at the tape, right when the game ended, they had that check down. But even though he's throwing into double coverage, it wasn't like he put a ball out there that he's putting it out there for the receiver to be able to go up and get it, or the receiver and the receiver didn't even make an attempt to go get it. It was 10 yards past. I mean, I think – when the DB caught the ball, he was almost in the end zone. Nick Harbor was on, I think, maybe the 5 or 6 yard line. I mean, if he puts that a little closer to him, that's a 50-50 ball. And I mean, that kid's a hell of an athlete. I think he goes up and gets that, and could be a different situation now. But that's just kind of the thing where I think he just needs to, kind of grow in that aspect. Obviously he's young. This is his second year. First year as a starter, second year at Carolina. So, I mean, look, I think the biggest thing with him is the biggest, bright side I see with him is he's a monster on his legs. I mean, if he gets an opening, he can go, and he's quick too. It's not just he can run, he can see the field, but he's quick and he's shifty. I mean, that can tear a lot of teams up. But, I think he's got potential, but we'll see too. I think also – some of South Carolina's downsides are, their offensive play calling.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And guys, we appreciate you getting back on here, talk some football, some Clemson football, and get around the sports world. We'll be back again next Wednesday back every Wednesday to recap that week, and we'll be back for the bye week. We'll talk a lot about that Virginia game, and get into a lot more about games around college football, because the Tigers will be watching a lot of those games from home. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you again next week.
See y'all.
East Tennessee State to just 3 of 13. Clubbing zips it down the field. In stride, and the Tigers are on the board. Olsen Pat Henry's become more and more of a factor, particularly in the run game. Here's Klubnik off to the races. They pick up right where they left off against Appalachian.
It's 2nd and 9 for Clemson. Klubnik with plenty of time. Found his man in the seam. It's caught. Williams, touchdown Clemson.